Have you ever noticed how some people relax the moment everyone leaves the room? Like, the house finally goes quiet, the notifications stop buzzing, and suddenly your shoulders drop an inch without you even realizing they were tense. Maybe that person is you, and maybe you've wondered, at least once, is something wrong with me for feeling safer alone? Because the world has a lot of opinions about that. We are told that humans are social creatures, that connection is the cure for almost everything, that being alone too much is a red flag. So when you find comfort in solitude instead of crowds, when you feel calmer in your own space than surrounded by people, it's easy to assume you're broken, antisocial, or secretly sad. But psychology tells a much more interesting story. And it starts by questioning the assumption that safety always comes from other people. Imagine this. You've had a long day. Nothing catastrophic happened, but your brain feels like it's been running 12 tabs at once. Conversations, expectations, micro decisions, reading between the lines, adjusting your tone, managing reactions. Then you get home, close the door, and it's just you. No one needs anything. No one is watching. No one is interpreting your expressions. And your nervous system lets out a breath it's been holding all day. That feeling isn't loneliness, it's relief. For people who feel safer alone, solitude isn't about avoiding connection. It's about reducing threat. And that's the key psychological shift most people miss. Safety isn't just physical, it's emotional, cognitive, and neurological. Your brain is constantly scanning the environment, asking one quiet question over and over again. Am I safe right now? Not safe as in, is there a tiger, but safe as in, do I need to perform, defend, explain, or adapt? When you're around other people, especially in groups, your brain does a lot of extra work. It tracks social cues. It predicts reactions. It monitors status, approval, rejection. For some brains, that process is light and almost automatic. For others, it's expensive. It costs energy. It raises baseline stress. And if your past has taught you that people can be unpredictable, critical, or emotionally unsafe, your nervous system learns a simple equation. Fewer people equals fewer variables. This often starts early. A child who grows up in an environment where emotions were volatile, inconsistent, or ignored learns to self-regulate alone. Maybe adults were loving but overwhelmed. Maybe attention came with the strings attached. Maybe expressing needs led to conflict or dismissal. Over time, the child discovers something important. Being alone feels calmer, more predictable, more controllable, and the brain, being a very efficient learning machine, locks that in as a survival strategy. Later in life, that strategy doesn't disappear just because you're grown. It shows up in subtle ways. You might enjoy people, but in small doses, you might need time alone after social events to reset. You might feel closer to yourself in solitude than in conversation. And none of that automatically means you're anxious, depressed, or avoidant. Sometimes it simply means your nervous system associates solitude with regulation. There's a concept in psychology called baseline arousal. Think of it like the idle speed of your brain. Some people idle low. They're comfortable with stimulation, noise, interaction, novelty. It all keeps them engaged. Others idle high. Their brains are already buzzing before anything happens. For them, extra stimulation pushes things toward overload. Being alone lowers the volume. It brings arousal back into a manageable range. Safety in that sense, is about balance, not isolation. This is why solitude often feels so different from loneliness. Loneliness is the pain of disconnection. Solitude is the presence of yourself without threat. When you feel safer alone, you're not craving absence. You're craving regulation. It's the difference between choosing quiet and being forced into silence. One restores you, the other drains you. Neuroscience backs this up in interesting ways. Social interaction activates multiple brain networks at once, including those involved in emotion processing, prediction, and self-monitoring. For someone with high emotional sensitivity or a history of social stress, those networks can light up intensely. Alone time, on the other hand, allows the default mode network to take over. This is the system involved in reflection, creativity, memory, and self-concept. It's the mental space where you process experiences instead of reacting to them. That's why some of your clearest thoughts show up in the shower, or on a late-night walk, or when you're lying in bed staring at the ceiling. It's not because you're avoiding life, it's because your brain finally has room to integrate it. Culturally, we don't always respect that. We celebrate the extrovert, the connector, the networker. Meanwhile, the person who prefers their own company is labeled distant, shy, or cold. But history is full of people who did their deepest thinking alone. Philosophers, artists, scientists, writers. Not because they hated people, but because solitude gave them access to parts of their mind that noise drowned out. Of course, there's a shadow side too. Feeling safer alone can sometimes slide into avoiding relationships altogether, not because you don't want connection, but because connection feels risky. This is where psychology asks a gentle but important question. Are you choosing solitude or hiding in it? The answer isn't something a label can give you. It's something you feel in your body. When solitude leaves you calmer, clearer, more grounded, that's regulation. When it leaves you numb, stuck, or afraid to re-engage, that's avoidance. And the line between the two isn't always obvious. Many people who feel safest alone still crave intimacy. They just want it without pressure, unpredictability, or emotional cost. They want connection that feels like home, not like a performance review. Attachment theory helps explain this tension. People with more avoidant tendencies often learned early that closeness came with discomfort. Maybe dependence wasn't safe, maybe vulnerability wasn't met well. So autonomy became the safer ground. Alone, you don't have to negotiate needs. You don't risk being misunderstood. You don't have to brace for disappointment. But that doesn't mean you don't want to be seen. It means you want to be seen without danger. And here is something that often surprises people. Many who feel safer alone are deeply empathetic. They feel others strongly. Too strongly, sometimes. Being around people isn't neutral for them, it's absorbing. Emotions bleed over, moods spread, expectations linger. Solitude becomes a way to protect boundaries, not build walls. Think of it like this. Some people have a skin like leather. Others have skin like silk. Neither is better or worse. They just respond differently to the same environment. If your emotional skin is thin, you learn to seek spaces that don't rub you raw. Alone time becomes that a space. There's also control. When you're alone, you control the pace, the input, the emotional temperature. You can think slowly, feel honestly, exist without editing yourself. For someone who has spent years adapting to others, that freedom feels like safety. It's not that people are bad, it's that being on all the time is exhausting. This is why many people who feel safest alone don't want to live that way forever. They want connection that feels as safe as solitude. Relationships where silence isn't awkward, where presence doesn't require performance, where being together feels like being alone, but better. That's not unrealistic, it's just selective. And there's a strength in that selectivity. Knowing what your nervous system needs is a form of intelligence. Choosing environments that regulate you is self-awareness. You're not antisocial for needing a space. You're not broken for enjoying your own company. You're responding to your internal wiring. The real work, if there is any, isn't forcing yourself to be more social. It's learning how to expand your sense of safety without betraying yourself. That might mean building relationships slowly, letting trust accumulate instead of demanding instant closeness. Practicing vulnerability in doses your system can handle, or simply honoring the fact that solitude is part of how you stay well. There's a quiet confidence that comes from being comfortable alone. It means your sense of safety isn't entirely outsourced. You don't need constant validation to feel okay. You can sit with your thoughts without running from them. That's not weakness, that's grounding. So if you're someone who feels safer alone, maybe the question isn't, what's wrong with me? Maybe it's, what did my nervous system learn, and how can I work with it instead of against it? Because psychology isn't about turning everyone into the same shape. It's about understanding why your shape exists. And maybe, just maybe, the world needs people who know how to be alone without being lonely. People who can create calm from the inside out. People who remind us that connection starts with feeling safe, not surrounded. If any part of this felt uncomfortably familiar or quietly reassuring, take a moment with it. You don't need to change who you are to belong. You just need to understand yourself a little better. And if you want to keep exploring how your mind works, how safety, connection, and identity intertwine, stay curious. There's a lot more to uncover together, and sometimes on your own.